Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you very much. My name's Bethan, and thank you for inviting me here today. I feel really nervous. I'm used to a class of 9, 10, 11-year-olds rather than grown-ups. So, you know, if I say show me 5, that means you have to be quiet and stop. No, but thank you very much. I feel like it is really important to share stories, and when I've been at conferences, I have really benefited from hearing people's stories. Sometimes it's quite scary as well, and I am so aware that we all have our very own stories going on. And some of us have lived with CLL for a little while, some a bit longer, and some are newly diagnosed. And coming to a conference can be quite daunting. The first conference I ever went to, I just didn't want to be there. I'd just been diagnosed and in the summer, and this was about the November, and I remember sitting in the car park at the Ramside thinking, I don't want to be here. What am I doing at a conference where people have got leukemia? Why am I here? And I was really angry and really upset about it. And it was a really emotional day. So that's okay. So I don't know what you're going through, but just remember that we're all going through the same thing. We've been through the same thing. And, you know, I feel like I'm standing here today as an advocate for everything that has gone on with CLL and feeling good about life. So I'd like you to meet my family. This is my husband and my 3 boys, Ben, Josh and Danny, and my 2 daughter-in-laws, Amy and Katie. They've just been amazing throughout, and family's been amazingly important throughout this time. So 2015 was a huge year for me. In the November of 2014, I decided to change jobs. I was a teacher on the senior management team, and just felt like I was struggling with work, with life. I was tired. I was a bit cheesed off. I was an overworked teacher, even though we do get 13 weeks holiday. And I made a change, and I took a step of faith, and I went to a maternity cover at a local school. So I resigned from my position, took up a year's maternity cover to just really evaluate life and settle down. So it was great. Moved schools, it was really local, 3 minutes around the corner, felt great. Throughout that year in 2015, Ben, our eldest son, and his girlfriend Katie were getting married, so that was really exciting. And I was able to give a lot of time to wedding preparations and wedding dress shopping and getting things ready, and it was fantastic. And I knew at the end of the year I was going to be 50. I've got a twin sister, and we were going to plan a little break together. So there was lots to look forward to, and life felt good. So I started this new job, and I was teaching year 3. They're about 7, and I just came down with a sore throat. And I must admit, I've always had sore throats throughout my life. I've had tonsillitis once, and that was horrible, and it felt like tonsillitis. However, when I was younger, I had glandular fever at 11, and I had a lump in my neck, and it had never gone away. And this lump came up big time, golf ball size. And I thought, oh, this is just an indicator. I'm run down, sore throat, just can't shift it. Teachers do a lot of talking, put it down to that. But in the end, I had to succumb and go to the doctors. So my GP was fab. She said, oh, take some time off. And I said, oh, I can't. I've just changed jobs. You know, I definitely can't take time off. And she said, well, we'll do your bloods and just see if everything's all right. So I was fine with that. Didn't really think about it. She did it. Said she wanted to see me 10 days later. 10 days later, I walked in and she said, did you take some time off? No. How do you feel? And I was feeling a bit better, but I was popping Lemsips and lockets and tunes, so I was constantly keeping my throat clear. So I felt okay. And she said, well, your bloods have thrown up a few anomalies, so I'm referring you to haematology. And I was like, why? I just don't understand why you would refer me to haematology. And she said, well, I did it as an emergency, but, it'll get you seen quicker. And I was like, okay. So when I got home from that appointment, there was the letter on the doorstep. And I must admit, I did think, whoa, that's a bit quick. But I thought, oh, well, that's fine. So this was the Tuesday, but my appointment was on the Friday. So I thought, whoa, that's quick, that's good, great NHS. And actually it fits in really nicely because it's 12:10. I can go to my appointment and then get back to teach PE at the end of the day. So Friday came, boss was absolutely fine about me going. So I said to Dave, my husband, don't come with me, wasting your time, wasting my time. I think I've got glandular fever. I think that's what it is, a little bit of glandular fever. So rocked off to Sunderland Royal, went to the Phoenix unit, sat in the waiting room thinking, what on earth am I doing here? I was looking around at people who looked ill. And I was like, what am I doing here? This is stupid. Anyway, the day got a bit better because this gorgeous young doctor walked in. And he said, oh, would you like to come through? I was like, yeah, fine, fine by me. It's looking quite good. Anyway, he was fabulous. And he said, sort of took a little history of what had gone on. I said, I'm wasting your time. I've just got a little sore throat, glandular fever, don't know what I'm doing. He said, well, can I examine you? So, of course, I said yes. It was really hot, so I'm like, yeah, do what you like. But it became a little bit serious then, because he was like, are you aware you've got lymph nodes in your neck? And I was like, no. And he said, well, just have a feel. So I had a little feel, and I was like, oh, yeah. So then he felt under my armpits. He said, oh, you've got one under your armpit as well. Do you, I'm going to show you how to feel it. I was like, oh, yeah. So I was just like, oh, just got glandular fever. So then he did a thorough examination. He was a little bit unsettled, and he said, would you mind having your bloods done? And I was like, no, I can't. I've got to get back to teach PE. And he said, well, I think you should. It won't take long. So did that, went into the waiting room. 5 minutes later, he recalled me. So he said, oh, I'm just going to take you a different way because I want you to see somebody else. And I was like, what are you playing at? And I was looking at my watch thinking, I need to get back to school. And then walked into a room, and that's when everything changed. I sort of walked in with this doctor. There was a consultant sat there, a specialist nurse, an auxiliary. And I was like, what are you playing at? So, and I was on my own, I was like, oh, what are they thinking about? So they said, would you like to sit down? I said, no, I don't really want to sit down. I want to go because I don't really know why I'm here. And I think whatever you're going to tell me, you've got it wrong. So he said, well, this is what's happened. This is what we're seeing. And I said, oh, I know what you're thinking about. You're thinking of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And he said, why are you thinking that? I said, well, I used to be a nurse, and I'm sort of just putting a few pieces together. And he said, well, I am. So then I did sit down. I was like, oh, dear me, forget PE. So he said, we've got to start a process here. We need fine needle biopsy. If that shows anything, we need a lymph node biopsy. If that shows anything, we'll have a CT scan. And if that shows anything, we'll have to think about possibly some treatment. And I said, but you don't know anything yet. You can't be talking about treatment when you don't know anything. He said, well, I'm just telling you the process. So I said, right, okay. And left. The specialist nurse ran after me and gave me a card with her name on. Her name's Anita. I don't know whether any of you know Anita Carr at Sunderland. But I was just like, I don't want your card. I really don't want it. And she tried to force it on me. I was like, no, thanks, I'm not interested. So I walked out of the hospital, got in the car, went back to work. And then as soon as I got to work, it hit me. I was like, whew. So I just remember sitting, watching the kids do PE while someone else taught my PE lesson, thinking, is this cancer? Is this cancer? Dave was only aware that I was going. We hadn't told the boys I had got an appointment. It didn't feel important, but it was. So when I went home that night, you've got to break the news to your husband. Then you've got to start drip feeding your children, drip feeding your parents, which was really hard. And at first I kept it really light. I don't think there's much going on. It's fine, They're just being overzealous, definitely glandular fever. So I sort of tried to persuade myself that I was fine. But all of those things happened. It was quick succession into the hospital, fine needle, lymph node removal, CT scan, and then a phone call to say, can you come in to see us? And that was when we heard the news. There's a lot of detail in between, which I'm not going to bore you with, but it's really important to me. It's like, for the women here, when you have a baby, and that birth story is really important. It nearly feels like that. So lots of things happened along the way that are just embedded in your memory, but I'm just really trying not to tell you all of it. But it was a shock. I was 49 years old, feeling well, being told I'd got a blood cancer. And I didn't believe them. I think I've been the most awkward patient. So I've just said to my consultant, Dr. Uppadai, all the way through, glandular fever. You've got it wrong. I will not accept this diagnosis. Definitely got glandular fever. Expecting to feel better. But the first doctor I saw, he really educated me as to examining myself. And I could feel these lymph nodes popping up. I remember lying in bed and I sleep on my tummy and I had my hand on my collarbone and I just thought, whoa, that's a new one. And they were just popping up left, right and centre. So that was diagnosis. So on my 50th birthday, it didn't feel too much of a celebration. It was just like, I've got to 50. I wanted to be fit and 50. Instead, I felt as if I'd got a noose around my neck. And obviously I was on watch and wait, which I just couldn't get my head around. I was like, why aren't they doing anything active to treat me? So, sorry, I've gone too far there. So the lead up to treatment was challenging on many levels. These pictures, I hope you like the hats, ladies. But I think I've put these pictures on because when I look at them now, I'm just so aware of how fat my face was. And the one in the pink hat is before diagnosis. And then sitting here on the marina, on a friend's boat, just a couple of days before I started chemo, my face was so full that it felt like it was draining and it felt hard and I just felt horrible. And it wasn't just about the face. I think we talk about our faces a lot because that's what people see. But the discomfort in my rib cage, in my groin was the hardest. The pain from my groin was really hard. I was a little bit breathless. I had lymph nodes in my lungs as well. And I felt as if I went downhill very, very quickly in 2015. So, there was obvious facial swelling and fatigue. I felt amazingly anxious. Some people at here I've spoken to have been on watch and wait for about 10 years, if not more. And to tell you the truth, I was struggling with watch and wait because I don't think a minute went by without me thinking about CLL, about not feeling well. And sometimes I felt amazingly ill, but I thought, is it the anxiety, the stress of it? But in the April of 2015, I woke up one day and my face was really swollen on one side. And I went into the Phoenix unit and straight away Anita said to me, this is an indication that you might need to start treatment soon. So I was watched every month possibly and my bloods just took the wrong turn. I think in the July, when I was diagnosed in 2015, my HB was about 13. By the time I was heading towards treatment, it had dipped to 8. And I just felt they were waiting for me to be ill enough to start treatment. So for me, that short period of time, one, it was disappointing that it wasn't a longer watch and wait. Two, I felt quite ill and I had to make a lot of changes to my life. I had to go part-time. My maternity cover finished. I didn't feel as if I could apply for another job, being so unwell, we'll call it. And it was challenging. Life was challenging. Plus trying to keep upbeat and drip feed and tell people, yeah, I've got a leukemia. And it's really hard dealing with other people as well. You'll have all, experienced that, won't you? You can deal with it yourself and with your close circle of friends, but maybe there's people, so for me it was my parents, my dad just couldn't accept it. Even a week before, he said, you don't think you'll need chemotherapy, do you? And I was like, I don't know, Dad, but possibly. So it's those things were really hard to deal with. So the facial swelling happened at the Easter. I was given steroids, felt amazing. I was like, oh, I'm fine. I haven't got CLL. The steroids have got rid of it. And I did. I was like Tigger. I was like, yeah, I feel great. But my consultant got the gist of me, and he made me have a bone marrow biopsy, had more scans, and things were definitely progressing. So I went for an appointment on a Tuesday, and he said, you definitely need to start treatment, Beth. And I was like, right, when? Because if I could have started it there and then, I would have said, sit me in a chair, rig me up, get it done. So that was the Tuesday. So we decided to start on the Friday, which was great. So I went to work on the Wednesday, told my boss. On the Thursday, I took the Thursday off and cleaned the house. And on Friday, we rocked up at the Phoenix unit for our first ever chemotherapy. I opted to have FCR. Well, did I opt? I did a lot of research. And I really wanted to be in Sunderland for one. Because the staff were amazing. I felt as if I knew the hospital. I wanted to keep my options open further down the line. And FCR seemed like the best option for me at that time because I'm going to say I was relatively young, relatively healthy, and that's what we did. There we go. So, I'm sorry, Mark. I got to know the hospital well. You become familiar with what you're looking for. So treatment began. It wasn't without hiccups, but really, I don't want, for people who haven't been treated, I don't want to say anything about it. Everyone responds differently in different ways. But standing here today, I'm going to say it was manageable. And I looked after myself. I didn't have any admissions for sepsis or any infection, which was great. I did have admissions for nausea, and we had to have a good look at medication for nausea. I was bored. Your life becomes smaller as soon as you give up work and you're confined to the house. I was amazingly bored. The telly kept me company. I painted furniture, some horrific colours. I crafted, which I don't do. I'm not a crafty person. I even made my own wrapping paper for Christmas. That shows how bored I was. So it was boring. And after chemo on the Friday, I'd have a few days of not feeling so great, and then I'd feel fantastic. However, I really did suffer with neutropenia, which really held me back. So after my first chemo on the Friday, I went to the hospital the following Thursday to get my bloods checked, and I did every Thursday before, until my next chemo. So I didn't really know too much about neutropenia, but the first time I went to the hospital, I had my bloods taken, and this lovely lady here on the right, the phlebotomist, and her name's just gone from me. Does anyone know her here? And I can't remember her name. She used to do my bloods every week, and she came in and she said, have you got any plans for this weekend? I said, oh yeah, I'm going to Harry Potter World in Watford. And she said, oh. She said, just a minute. I said, what's wrong? She said, nothing. So then one of the sisters rocked up, navy blue looking official. She said, so Beth, you're going to Harry Potter, are you, in Watford? I said, yeah, we're going tomorrow night. I'm really looking forward to it. She went, you're not. I went, oh, yes, I am. She was like, oh, no, you're not. So then she explained neutropenia. I think I had neutrophils of 0.1. And she was like, I either admit you or you don't go to Harry Potter. And I was like, who are you to tell me what I do when you've just given me chemotherapy? And I was really stroppy. I even had a little cry. I was like, I really want to go. It was a Mother's Day present off the boys. So, yeah, I learned the hard way. I didn't go to Harry Potter, but I did go to Watford. And I stayed in my son's house, which he'd cleaned. And I just felt bad-tempered about it. So I think I learnt my lesson very quickly that you've got to make adjustments to your life. So every week I'd go to the hospital, always neutropenic, until the Tuesday before, and it would just go up to 1 so I could have my next round. So you'd have a few days where you'd think, oh, I'll go out for coffee, I'll do this. So I managed to get through the 6 cycles by December. So Christmas that year was a much better experience. So I felt very grateful. It was ringing that bell was emotional and such a nice thing to do as well. So that was me done. So a year from diagnosis, treatment completed, and I felt as if I'd had something done. I was pleased that they treated me, and after round 4, I had a CT scan, and there was just no signs of any lymph nodes. So it was really exciting. That was hard to deal with because I knew I'd had a good response, and then I didn't want round 5 or round 6. So I did a lot of begging, saying, please, do I not have to have it? Can you give me less? Can you make it nicer? And I really struggled with round 5 and 6, but we got through it, and it was really exciting. This is my eldest son, Ben. He's a teacher, and his head teacher let him come down for the afternoon to sit with me, having my rituximab. So that was really good, even though I fell off my head. So I just wanted to show you this picture. This is some online buddies from Health Unlocked, and this is where I met Mark. So we just chatted online, but the lady at the front is Nick. She's got CLL, and she had FCR probably 3 weeks before me. So she always prepared me for what to expect. Then the girl on the left at me, she's called Maria. Her husband has CLL, but she does a lot of the advocacy for him. So we met in London. We talked online. We celebrated with Prosecco and just talking about our experiences. And it was just a real boost to do that. So today, I'm going to cry now. I can't do this one. This is Rose. This is our granddaughter. She was born on Boxing Day. And it's just so good to be here and be well. And this little one brightens up our life. So I just wanted to share that with you. And she's gorgeous. So good luck to all of you in your journey. Sorry about that.
That's all right.